She ignored 3 direct orders, and that is why her award is being revoked. Claire Whitmore's voice cut through the school hallway before the applause from the science competition had fully died. That isn't what happened, a student whispered. The report is final, Grant Holloway replied. 12-year-old Imani Carter stood beneath the championship banner with one hand pressed against her empty ear, watching another student's name replace hers on the digital results board. The fluorescent lights hummed above polished tile, and the glass trophy case reflected dozens of faces pretending not to stare. Near the far wall, Marcus Reed guided a wide dust mop around folding chairs and abandoned poster boards, quiet enough that most people had forgotten he was there. He was 42, a black single father, a maintenance worker in a Navy uniform with an old silver name tag, and the calm posture of a man who had learned that dignity did not require an audience. Claire turned toward the parents gathered near the auditorium doors. Imani continued her demonstration after being told to stop 3 times. We cannot reward a student who refuses basic safety instructions. Evelyn Cross, whose son had finished second, offered a sympathetic smile polished by years of charity dinners. This is unfortunate, but fairness means holding every child to the same standard. Imani shook her head and signed quickly to her mother, but the adults around her were already moving on. Holloway closed the discipline folder with a soft snap. The family can appeal through the proper process. Marcus said nothing. He pushed the mop beneath the trophy case, where one will caught against something small and hard. He stopped. Under the lowest shelf, beside a fresh gray streak left by a rolling equipment cart, lay a silver hearing aid no larger than his thumb. A tiny green light blinked once, paused, then blinked again. Marcus crouched without touching it. He had spent enough years around delicate equipment to know the difference between a dead device and one still searching for a signal. Behind him, Imani pointed toward the floor, her expression changing from humiliation to alarm. That's hers, her mother said. Holloway stepped closer. Put it in lost and found. It's probably damaged. Marcus pulled disposable gloves from his maintenance cart. Maybe. He photographed the device exactly where it rested, then checked the wall clock. 4:26. There's no need for all that, Holloway said. It's school property now until the family claims it. Marcus looked at him. It's medical equipment belonging to a child. Claire folded her arms. Mr. Reed, we are already dealing with a serious disciplinary matter. Marcus slid a clear evidence pouch from the spill response kit on his cart. Then we should be careful not to create another one. He lifted the hearing aid gently, sealed the pouch, wrote the time across the label, and asked the front office secretary to initial the edge. Evelyn watched from several feet away, her concern beginning to look less like compassion and more like calculation. You're making this seem suspicious, she said. Marcus placed the sealed pouch beneath the hallway light. I haven't said it is. The green indicator flashed again. Claire glanced toward the closed judge's room. Holloway noticed her glance and spoke too quickly. The device is broken. Throw it in the electronics bin and order the girl another one. Marcus's eyes stayed on the light. Broken devices don't usually keep trying to connect. For the first time, Principal Alana Brooks stepped away from the crowd. Connect to what? She asked. Marcus did not answer immediately. Beyond the judge's room door, something electronic gave a faint confirmation tone. The hearing aid blinked in response. Once, twice. Then Claire Whitmore reached toward the microphone still clipped to her blouse, and the light went dark. The light went dark, but Marcus had already seen enough to know the moment mattered. Why did you touch the microphone? Principal Alana Brooks asked. Claire Whitmore lowered her hand as though the movement had meant nothing. I was turning it off. The competition is over. You said it was already off, Marcus replied. I said the device was broken, Claire corrected, her voice smooth again. Those are not the same thing. Grant Holloway stepped between them with the discipline folder pressed against his chest. This hallway is becoming a spectacle. The student violated instructions. The judges made their decision, and we are not reopening the matter because a maintenance employee found a piece of equipment. Imani stood beside her mother, watching their mouths with fierce concentration. Without her hearing aid, every sentence reached her late and incomplete. Her mother began signing, but Holloway had already turned toward the gathering parents. "We regret what happened. Still, safety rules must apply equally to every student." Evelyn Cross gave a slow, approving nod. "Exactly. Compassion matters, but standards matter too. We cannot teach children that a disability excuses disobedience." The words were gentle. That made them colder. A few parents looked away. Others accepted the explanation because it had been delivered calmly by people wearing official badges. Imani raised both hands and signed quickly. Her mother translated. "She says she did follow the visual timer. She says the board changed at 4:17, and she stopped." Claire shook her head. "She continued after I gave 3 direct warnings." Holloway opened the folder. "The report confirms that." Marcus looked toward the digital display mounted above the auditorium doors. It was frozen at 4:17, the time left on the screen when the system had been shut down. "May I see the report?" he asked. Holloway did not hand it over. "You are not part of this review." "Then read the warning section aloud." "This is confidential." Principal Brooks extended her hand. "Give it to me." Holloway hesitated for less than a second, but Marcus noticed. Brooks opened the folder and scanned the page. Her eyes paused near the middle. "It says one final verbal warning was issued." Claire answered immediately. "There were 3. The report must have summarized them." "3 warnings are not a summary of 1, Marcus said. Holloway closed the folder in Brooks's hands. "This is exactly why staff reports should not be dissected in a hallway." Imani tugged gently at Marcus's sleeve, then pointed toward Claire. Her fingers moved again. Her mother watched and translated more. Slowly this time. "She says the green light on her hearing aid stayed on. She says that means the microphone was connected." Claire's expression tightened. A child cannot be expected to understand every technical signal. Marcus crouched until he was at Imani's eye level. He did not ask whether Claire was lying. He did not offer a theory. He pulled a clean work order sheet from his cart, turned it over, and gave Imani a pen. "Write only what you remember seeing," he said. "Not what anyone told you afterward." Brooks watched him carefully. "Mr. Reed, she is upset. Memory under stress can be unreliable." Marcus nodded. "That is why I am not asking her to explain the whole event." The hallway settled into a strange quiet. The air smelled of floor wax, poster paint, and coffee cooling in paper cups. Imani bent over the maintenance cart and wrote with deliberate care. First, she wrote green light. Then she wrote 4:17. Finally, she wrote teacher turned away. Marcus read the 3 lines and handed the paper to Brooks without adding a word. Evelyn stepped closer. "This proves nothing." "Not yet," Marcus said. Claire gave a small laugh that did not reach her eyes. "There is no mystery here. I gave the instructions." She ignored them. The judges acted. Imani took the paper back and added one more sentence beneath the others. Her hand trembled, but the letters were clear. She turned the page toward Marcus. He read it once, then looked across the hallway at the microphone clipped to Claire's blouse. Imani had written, her microphone was still on when she went into the judge's room. Marcus read the sentence a second time, then folded the paper without changing a word. "Imani, did you see where your hearing aid fell?" he asked. She shook her head and signed that everything had become confusing after the announcement. Her mother translated, her voice strained. She only remembers touching her ear near the judge's room and realizing it was gone. Grant Holloway glanced toward the sealed pouch. "Then the matter is settled. The device was dropped, damaged, and found. We should return it to the family and move on." Marcus looked at Imani, not Holloway. Without the device, she was studying every face for meaning, trying to assemble conversations from lips, gestures, and expressions. He recognized the exhaustion in her eyes. "She should not have to leave school without a way to hear," he said. Claire adjusted the microphone on her blouse. "The nurse may have disposable earplugs." Marcus turned slowly. "Earplugs block sound. They do not replace a hearing aid. Claire's cheeks colored, but her smile remained in place. I misspoke. Marcus pushed his maintenance cart toward the health office. He had no dramatic announcement and no promise that he could fix what had happened. He simply asked Imani and her mother to follow. Inside the quiet office, he opened a locked accessibility cabinet with the nurse present and found a district-issued personal amplifier, a lightweight headset, and a clean receiver. It was not ideal, and it would not reproduce Imani's program settings, but it would allow her mother's voice to reach her clearly enough for the ride home. Marcus checked the inventory number, recorded the temporary loan, and waited while the nurse fitted the headset. When Imani finally heard her mother say her name, her shoulders lowered for the first time since the ceremony. Better? Marcus asked. Imani nodded. Thank you, she said carefully. You do not owe me thanks for something the school should already have ready, he replied. Principal Brooks stood in the doorway watching. She had expected anger from the family, defensiveness from the staff, perhaps even a public accusation from Marcus. Instead, she saw him checking batteries, cleaning the receiver, and explaining each control to Imani without speaking to her as though she were younger than 12. Quiet kindness had changed the air more effectively than any argument. Back in the hallway, Marcus placed the sealed hearing aid inside the camera-covered lost property cabinet. He entered the serial number, the location where it had been found, and the exact time. Then he added a note about the fresh gray scrape beside the trophy case. Why include the floor mark? Brooks asked. Because it was not there this morning, Marcus said. He pointed toward a silver maintenance. Adhesive dried along the edge of the device. That compound is used on the wheels of the equipment carts near the judge's room. Claire folded her arms. Are you suggesting someone moved it? I am saying it was close enough to one of those carts to pick up fresh adhesive. Holloway stepped toward the cabinet. I will take custody. Discipline records and related property belong in my office. Marcus kept the cabinet door open. Then sign the transfer form, and the secretary will witness it. That is unnecessary. It is required whenever medical equipment changes custody. Holloway's voice softened, becoming almost friendly. Marcus, you are creating suspicion where none exists. A signature should not frighten anyone who has nothing to hide. The secretary looked down, pretending to organize papers, but Brooks saw the corner of her mouth tighten. Holloway did not sign. Instead, he stepped back and said the device could remain where it was until morning. Marcus locked the cabinet and handed the duplicate key to the secretary. Then, from behind the glass, the tiny green indicator flashed again. A faint electronic tone answered from beyond the closed judge's room. Claire turned toward the sound. Marcus followed her gaze to a black microphone case sitting on the table inside. According to the equipment return sheet hanging beside the door, Claire's microphone had already been checked in 20 minutes earlier. But the signature line was empty. Principal Brooks stared at the empty signature line, then at the black microphone case behind the glass. Who returned that equipment? She asked. Claire answered before anyone else could. I did. Sometime before 4 o'clock. Marcus looked at the wall clock, then at the sealed hearing aid blinking inside the cabinet. You are certain it was before 4? Claire lifted her chin. Yes, I turned it off when the judges began their final review. Grant Holloway closed the equipment log and placed one hand over the unsigned line. This is turning into a technical distraction. The student's conduct is the issue, not a missing signature. Brooks did not look away from Claire. The report says Imani received verbal instructions. After 4:17. How could those instructions reach her if your microphone had already been turned off? The question settled over the hallway. Fluorescent lights buzzed above them, and somewhere in the auditorium, a custodian folded metal chairs one at a time. Claire took a careful breath. She could still see me. I used gestures. The report does not mention gestures, Marcus said. Holloway stepped closer. Mr. Reed, you have exceeded your role. Then tell me where my role ends, Marcus replied. Does it end before medical equipment is protected? Or after a child is blamed for something the equipment may explain? Brooks turned toward him. How do you know what this device may contain? Marcus was quiet for a moment. He had never discussed his old work at the school. Most people knew him as the man who repaired door closers, replaced ceiling tiles, and arrived before sunrise when the heating system failed. They did not know that years earlier, before his wife became ill, he had worked in a pediatric hospital testing assistive listening systems, programming receivers, and documenting connection failures for children who depended on them. I was a certified assistive technology technician, he said. I worked with hearing devices and classroom transmitters for almost 11 years. Holloway gave a short, skeptical laugh. And now you repair lockers. Marcus met his eyes. Now I raise my daughter on a schedule that lets me be home when she needs me. The laughter disappeared. Brooks studied Marcus with a new caution, not admiration, not yet, but attention. Can you recover data from the hearing aid? She asked. Not legally and not here, Marcus replied. The device belongs to Imani. Any diagnostic record should be handled by an authorized district specialist with her mother's consent. So you cannot prove anything, Claire said. I did not say that. Marcus pointed toward the green indicator. That light pattern does not mean low battery. It means the device is searching for a registered transmitter. The response tone from the judge's room suggests the matching microphone may still be active. Claire immediately shook her head. That is impossible. My microphone was off before 4. Brooks's eyes narrowed. No one had asked again when it was turned off. Marcus did not press the mistake. He simply removed a second clear pouch from his cart and placed it on the counter. The hearing aid should remain sealed. The microphone should be sealed separately. Tomorrow morning, the district's assistive technology specialist can compare the serial numbers, connection log, and internal clock. Holloway looked toward Brooks. This is unnecessary escalation. It is preservation, Marcus said. Escalation happened when the report called a technical failure disobedience. Claire opened the judge's room and reached for the black case. Marcus raised one hand, not touching her. Please leave it where it is until the principal documents the location. Claire froze. Brooks took out her school-issued telephone, photographed the case on the table, and asked the secretary to witness the transfer. When the case was opened, the microphone inside showed a faint blue power light. Claire stared at it. That cannot be mine. Marcus checked the equipment label without removing the device. The number matched the transmitter assigned to Claire Whitmore. Brooks looked at the empty return line again. Seal it, she said. Holloway's calm expression finally cracked. Principal Brooks, think carefully. Once you call the district, this becomes an official investigation. Brooks signed across the pouch and handed the marker to the secretary. It became official when a child lost an award based on a report that does not match the equipment. Marcus placed the sealed microphone beside the hearing aid, separated by glass and 2 signed forms. The 2 indicator lights blinked almost together, like distant signals answering across a dark room. Then Marcus noticed one final detail on the microphone log. The device had been assigned to Claire at 8:12 that morning, but the return time had been entered as 3:58 in handwriting that did not match hers. The initials beside it belonged to Grant Holloway. By 8:15 the next morning, the hallway outside Principal Brooks's office no longer felt like a school corridor. It felt like a place where every ordinary object had become a witness. The sealed hearing aid rested on one side of the conference table. Claire Whitmore's microphone rested on the other. Between them sat 2 custody forms, 3 signatures, and a silence no one seemed willing to disturb. Dana Ruiz, the district's assistive technology specialist, arrived carrying a hard black case and a laptop issued by the district. She was calm, precise, and unimpressed by titles. Before I examine anything, I need the family's written consent, the original photographs, and the full transfer log, she said. Imani's mother signed first. Principal Brooks signed next. Marcus placed the photographs on the table in the order they had been taken and stepped back. Grant Holloway watched him with a polite expression that never reached his eyes. For the record, Holloway said, we are investigating a possible equipment malfunction, not the disciplinary decision. Dana looked up. The equipment will tell us what it can. The rest is not my department. Claire sat with her hands folded tightly. The microphone may have been left on by accident. Marcus did not answer. He knew accidents happened. He also knew honest accidents usually produced one story, not three changing ones. Dana inspected the seals, photographed each label, and compared the serial numbers with the district inventory. The hearing aid belonged to Imani. The microphone had been assigned to Claire at 8:12 the previous morning. Dana connected both devices to an isolated diagnostic reader that could examine system records without altering them. A progress bar moved slowly across her screen. The heating system clicked on somewhere above the ceiling. Morning sunlight crossed the blinds in thin gold lines, and the only other sound was Imani turning a paper cup between her hands. The internal clocks are synchronized to the district server, Dana said. Neither clock has been manually changed. Holloway leaned forward. Can the log show whether a command was actually heard? It can show connection status, mute status, signal interruption, and reconnection attempts. The screen refreshed. Dana's eyes stopped moving. At 4:16 and 42 seconds, the classroom microphone entered mute mode. Claire spoke immediately. I may have touched the button while moving. At 4:18 and 3 seconds, it returned to active mode. Dana continued. Principal Brooks looked toward the frozen competition schedule on the wall. Imani's presentation had ended at 4:17. Her mother placed one hand over her mouth. She never heard the warning, she said. Holloway kept his voice measured. That does not prove she followed visual instructions. Marcus nodded once. It does not. Claire looked relieved for half a second. Then Marcus added, it proves the report was wrong when it said she ignored repeated verbal commands. Brooks opened the discipline folder. The report does not mention a microphone failure. Because no one knew about it at the time, Holloway said. Dana turned the laptop toward them. The system issued a connection failure alert at 4:16 and 43 seconds. The transmitter displayed the same alert. Claire's face lost color. I did not see it. That is possible, Dana said. But the device saw it. Brooks drew a line through the phrase deliberate refusal on her copy of the report. The award announcement remains suspended. Holloway's calm finally sharpened. Principal Brooks, a technical log cannot replace professional judgment. Marcus looked at the timestamps. No. It can only show when professional judgment started with the wrong facts. Dana raised one hand before anyone could reply. There is more. She explained that when the hearing aid lost its clean signal, the device created a short diagnostic buffer to help technicians identify the cause. The buffer was still present. It had never been opened. It carried a manufacturer's signature proving it had not been changed. Claire stared at the sealed device. Evelyn Cross, who had just entered with a leather folder under her arm, stopped in the doorway. How long is the recording? She asked. No one had told her there was one. Evelyn Cross remained in the doorway, one hand resting on the leather folder against her side. How long is the recording? She repeated. Dana Ruiz did not answer immediately. She looked from Evelyn to Principal Brooks, then back to the diagnostic screen. I have not stated that the device contains an audio recording, she said. The room changed in a single breath. Grant Holloway shifted in his chair. Claire Whitmore looked down at her folded hands. Evelyn offered a patient smile, the kind used at fundraising dinners when someone asked an inconvenient question. You called it a buffer. I assumed that meant recorded sound. Most parents would not know that, Dana replied. I read about assistive technology, Evelyn said. My family has funded accessibility programs in this district. Holloway closed the discipline folder. This conversation is becoming accusatory. We should stop before private student information is exposed. I agree that privacy matters, Marcus said. That is why no one should open the file until the district confirms who has legal authority to hear it. Claire looked toward him. Yesterday you wanted the device investigated. Now you want to delay it. I want the result to survive every question that comes after it. Brooks leaned back in her chair. The morning announcements began over the school speakers, muffled by the conference room door. Outside, students moved through the hallway with backpacks and breakfast cartons, unaware that a tiny device on the table had placed several adults under a brighter light than any courtroom could have offered. Dana explained that the buffer was automatically created when the hearing aid detected an unusual signal interruption. It was designed for diagnosis, not surveillance. The file could contain only static, a system tone, or a brief sample of surrounding audio. Its existence proved nothing by itself. Holloway seized on that uncertainty. Then there is no reason to open it. We already know the microphone muted. We can correct the technical note without turning a child's medical device into evidence. Imani's mother looked at him. You were willing to use a staff report to punish my daughter. Why are you afraid of a record created by the equipment she depends on? I am protecting her, Holloway replied. From what? Marcus asked. Holloway's expression remained calm. From having a private moment replayed before strangers. Marcus nodded slowly. Then let her mother decide, not the people whose report is being questioned. Brooks asked Dana what would be required. Dana listed the steps. Written parental consent, authorization from the district's privacy officer, verification from the manufacturer, and a controlled extraction witnessed by neutral staff. The original file would remain untouched. A verified copy would be created, assigned a digital fingerprint, and placed in restricted storage. Evelyn opened her folder. This could take days. The regional competition registration closes tomorrow. Then the school should not have revoked Imani's result before checking the equipment, Marcus said. Claire's voice sharpened. You speak as if we acted with bad intentions. I have not said what your intentions were. Marcus looked at the sealed microphone. I am asking what your actions left behind. Brooks signed the request for immediate district review. Imani's mother signed the consent form after Dana read every line aloud. Holloway refused to sign as a witness, claiming a conflict of interest. The front office secretary signed instead. By noon, the manufacturer sent confirmation that the diagnostic buffer was genuine, that its internal signature matched the device, and that it had never been accessed or modified. Dana printed the verification and placed it beside the custody forms. The file is intact, she said. We can extract it under district supervision. Claire turned to Brooks. Even if it contains voices, a few seconds cannot explain an entire conversation. That is true, Brooks replied. But a few seconds can tell us where to look next. Evelyn stood. I strongly advise against this. Once words are taken out of context, reputations cannot be repaired. Marcus met her eyes. Are you worried about privacy, Mrs. Cross, or about what the device heard? Her smile disappeared for the first time. A maintenance worker should be careful when questioning people who support this school. Marcus did not raise his voice. And people who support a school should be careful not to confuse support with ownership. Dana connected the verified extraction drive. A new window appeared on the screen. The file length was 47 seconds. Evelyn stared at the number before anyone read it aloud. Then, almost under her breath, she said, That is longer than they told me. Who told you the file was shorter? Principal Brooks asked. Evelyn Cross closed her leather folder with deliberate care. No one told me anything. I was speaking generally. You said they told you, Dana Ruiz replied. Grant Holloway leaned forward. People misspeak under pressure. That does not make them guilty of misconduct. Marcus remained beside the conference table, watching the adults explain away words they had chosen themselves. Before anyone plays the file, he said, we should confirm where the device was during those 47 seconds. Claire Whitmore looked almost relieved. It was found beneath the trophy case. We already know that. We know where it was found, Marcus replied. Not when it arrived there. Brooks turned toward the wall monitor. Pull the hallway cameras. Holloway objected immediately. The cameras do not record sound. They cannot explain a disciplinary decision. They can establish location and time, Marcus said. Without those, Every voice on that file will be challenged. Brooks called the district security office and requested the original footage from the auditorium corridor, the judge's room entrance, and the front lobby. She also ordered the system to preserve the files before the routine 30-day overwrite. 20 minutes later, the first video appeared on the monitor. The image was silent, slightly grainy, and painfully ordinary. Students carried poster boards. Parents gathered coats. Staff members rolled equipment carts toward storage. Dana synchronized the camera clock with the hearing aid's verified internal time. For 16 and 42 seconds, she said. On the screen, Claire stood beside the presentation table with the microphone clipped to her blouse. She reached toward the transmitter at the exact moment the connection log showed mute mode. Imani continued watching the visual timer. At 4:17, the display changed. She stopped her demonstration, stepped back, and waited. She stopped on time, Imani's mother whispered. Claire folded her arms. That angle does not show everything I said or signaled.
No, Brooks replied.
It shows what Imani did. The footage advanced. At 4:18 and 3 seconds, Claire touched the microphone again. The connection log showed it returning to active mode. 1 minute later, Holloway opened the judge's room door. Claire entered first, still wearing the transmitter. Evelyn followed at 4:21, carrying the same leather folder now resting on the conference table. Holloway entered last and closed the door. You said Mrs. Cross left immediately after the competition, Brooks said. Holloway did not look at her. I may have confused the timing. Marcus asked Dana to continue. At 4:23, Imani walked slowly along the corridor beside her mother, one hand near her ear. A rolling equipment cart stood outside the judge's room. As Imani stepped around it, her shoulder brushed the corner. Something small fell, struck the tile, and slid beneath the lowest edge of the trophy case. Imani did not notice. The judge's room door was less than 12 feet away. Marcus pulled the school's maintenance diagram from the cabinet and placed it beside the monitor. That wall is standard drywall over metal studs, he said. The door has a hollow core. The device remained within normal connection range. Dana checked the manufacturer specifications. He is correct. At that distance, the hearing aid could remain paired with the classroom transmitter. Claire looked at Evelyn. Evelyn looked at Holloway. None of them spoke. The camera continued. At 4:24, the tiny green light beneath the trophy case flashed. At 4:26, Marcus entered with his dust mop and stopped when the wheel touched the device. Everything matched his photographs, his written time, and the secretary's signature. Brooks exhaled slowly. The recording came from outside the judge's room while the three of you were inside. Holloway straightened his tie. Even if that is true, the file may contain fragments with no context. Then we established the context independently, Marcus said. Dana opened the electronic access log for the judge's room. Holloway's badge had unlocked the door at 4:21. A school computer inside the room had awakened 30 seconds later. Brooks asked which document had been opened. The technology office searched the server record while no one moved. Sunlight shifted across the conference table, passing over the sealed hearing aid and the microphone that had carried words farther than anyone intended. Then the answer appeared on the monitor. At 4:22, inside the judge's room, someone opened Imani Carter's discipline report. At 4:19, the report had said the student did not receive the audio signal because the microphone lost connection. But at 4:38, after Claire, Holloway, and Evelyn had spent 17 minutes behind the closed door, that sentence was no longer there. Principal Brooks stared at the missing sentence on the monitor. Preserve every version of that report, she said. Grant Holloway stood slowly. Before this goes any further, I want District Council present. Council is already on the secure call, Dana Ruiz replied. A small speaker on the conference table lit up, and the district attorney confirmed that the camera files, device logs, and document records had been preserved. Imani and her mother moved to a private room with a family advocate. No one would make a 12-year-old sit through adults arguing over the moment they had taken her achievement away. Marcus remained near the wall, his hands folded behind his back. He had brought the evidence to the door. Now the evidence had to walk through it without being pushed. Dana created a verified copy of the 47-second file. The original remained sealed. The digital fingerprint appeared on the screen, matching the manufacturer record exactly. Everyone in this room will hear the same unedited file, she said.
No pauses. No enhancements.
No interpretation until it ends. Evelyn Cross placed her leather folder flat on the table. A recording from a medical device should never have reached this point. Marcus looked at her. Neither should a false report about a child. Dana pressed play. For 3 seconds there was only soft static and the distant scrape of a chair. Then Claire's voice came through the speaker, lower than it had sounded in the hallway. She did stop when the timer changed. Holloway answered, "That is not the issue now." Evelyn's voice followed. "My son followed every instruction. If they review the equipment failure, they will allow her to present again." Claire said, "The microphone was muted. She could not hear the warning." A paper shifted near the transmitter. Holloway spoke again. "Then do not write microphone. Write that she did not comply with direct instruction." "That is not what happened," Claire said. "It is what the judges need in order to close the result," Holloway replied. Evelyn's chair creaked. "If they reverse this, my son loses the regional slot. After everything my family has provided this school, I expect stability." Holloway lowered his voice. "The report will end the matter." The file ended with a door moving and a faint electronic tone. No one spoke. The heating vent whispered above them. A school bell rang somewhere beyond the office, bright and ordinary, while every person around the table understood that the story they had been given was no longer standing. Brooks turned first to Claire. "You knew Imani could not hear the warning." Claire's eyes were wet, but her voice remained controlled. "I tried to tell him. You signed the final report. I was told the wording was administrative." Holloway leaned toward the speaker. "Those sentences are incomplete. We were discussing several concerns. The phrase direct instruction may have referred to visual cues." Dana replayed nothing. She simply opened the verified transcript window and marked the time of each voice. "The file is short," Holloway continued. "It does not show what happened before or after." Marcus stepped forward only far enough to place Imani's handwritten page beside the camera timeline. "Green light. For 17. Teacher turned away. Microphone still on. That is why the recording does not stand alone," he said. "The timer shows when she stopped. The connection log shows when the microphone was muted. The camera shows who entered the room. The access record shows which report was opened. Every piece tells the same story without asking the others what to say." Evelyn's expression hardened. "You are presenting yourself as an investigator now."
No, Marcus replied.
"I am presenting times, records, and signatures. They do not care what job I have." Brooks looked at Holloway. "Who changed the report?" "I do not recall making a change." Claire turned toward him. "You told me the last sentence had to be stronger." The room went still again. Holloway's eyes narrowed. Claire realized what she had revealed and tried to recover. "I mean, if someone changed it, I assumed it was him." Marcus looked at the monitor. No one mentioned a last sentence. Claire said nothing. Brooks asked the technology office to open the full version history. The first draft appeared, followed by each saved revision. At 4:19, Claire had written that Imani did not receive the audio signal because the microphone lost connection. At 4:38, the sentence had been replaced with a claim that Imani intentionally ignored direct instructions. Beside the revision was the username of the person who made it. Grant Holloway. Grant Holloway's username remained on the screen beside the revision time, 4:38 in the afternoon. "That account is used by several administrators," he said. Principal Brooks turned toward him. "District policy prohibits shared credentials. Policies and daily practice are not always the same thing." "That is not an answer," Brooks replied. Holloway adjusted his tie and looked toward the district attorney's speaker. "Someone could have accessed my computer while I was away from the office." Marcus did not accuse him. He pulled a blank sheet from the printer tray and drew a straight line across it. "Let us put everything in order," he said. At 4:16 and 42 seconds, Claire's microphone entered mute mode. At 4:17, Imani stopped when the visual timer changed. At 4:19, Claire created the first report and wrote that Imani had not received the audio signal. At 4:21, Claire, Holloway, and Evelyn entered the judge's room. At 4:22, Imani's report was opened. At 4:38, the sentence describing equipment failure was replaced with a claim of intentional disobedience. Brooks studied the 6 marks on the page. "What happened between 4:22 and 4:38? She asked. The technology office answered through the speaker. "There is an email connected to the file activity." Evelyn Cross sat straighter. "My private correspondence has nothing to do with this." Dana Ruiz looked at the message header. "It was sent to Principal Brooks, Mr. Holloway, and Ms. Whitmore at 4:33. Brooks frowned. "I did not see it until this morning." Dana read the message aloud. Evelyn had written that the new science laboratory required stability, that donors expected the school to enforce standards, and that rewarding what she called disruptive conduct would create the wrong example. She never ordered anyone to change a report. She never mentioned her son's regional position. She did not need to. The meaning lived beneath the polite words. Evelyn folded her hands. "I expressed concern as a parent and a donor. That is not misconduct." Marcus nodded. "An email is not proof by itself." Holloway looked almost grateful until Marcus added another mark to the timeline. But it arrived 5 minutes before the report changed. Brooks asked the security office for footage from Holloway's administrative suite. The camera did not show his screen, but it showed the desk, the door, and the clock above the filing cabinets. At 4:36, Holloway entered alone. At 4:37, he sat at his computer. At 4:38, the document history recorded the change. He remained there until 4:41. Holloway's expression hardened. "I review reports every day. The camera only proves I was working." "Correct," Marcus said. "The username proves which account made the change. The camera proves you were at that account when it happened. The recording proves the change had already been discussed." Holloway looked at him with quiet contempt. "You enjoy this, do you not? Being treated like someone important." Marcus's face did not change. "A child lost her honor. There is nothing enjoyable in this room." The words slowed everything down. Sunlight had moved from the table to the floor, illuminating dust no one had noticed before. Outside, a class passed in an orderly line, their voices fading toward the stairwell. Brooks opened the original report beside the revised one. "You did not correct grammar," she told Holloway. "You changed the cause. I clarified responsibility." Marcus looked at the sentence highlighted in yellow. "You changed equipment failure into deliberate refusal. You did not correct the record. You corrected it away from the truth." Holloway stood. "This meeting is over until I have representation." The district attorney told him he was free to leave, but all records would remain preserved. As Holloway reached the door, the technology officer spoke again. "Principal Brooks, there is something else." The phrase intentional failure to follow direct instruction appears in 3 earlier discipline reports. Holloway stopped without turning around. Brooks asked whose reports they were. The answer came slowly. All 3 belonged to students with documented accessibility plans, and every one of those reports had been edited through Holloway's account.